when it comes to the school system? How was the transition like?
Well, it's not it's not the first time we're changing schools, because she started school actually in Qatar. We lived in Qatar. Then she did school she started then school in Vienna, because we lived in Vienna for 2 years. Then we moved to Switzerland, so to the German part. So that was also, it was a bit of a deviation for Corona with another school, but never mind. Mainly it was like a German part. So in Vienna it's German, in Switzerland it's German. So I think around 5 years she did the school in German. She didn't mind the move, because with all these moves she's already open to adventure, and that's a bit her character. So in our case, she was quite looking forward to new adventures, because on the picture, of course, I presented her the school that we have robotics, and
You
all
run the
that.
ads.
It's not difficult at that age to make a child interested, you don't need much. Yeah, the reality then turned out to be different, So when we moved, she went to this school. It's in English, so she's English speaker because of the father. Our family speaks in English at home, so for her English was not a problem. The school is English speaking school in Uruguay, and so she was quite happy, because she would feel very free in English, and that school had a wonderful marketing, presenting that they have all these different courses and extra activities and so on. But then when she moved there, somehow she couldn't adjust with the kids, because in a strange way, compared to Europe, the kids here are much more friendlier, and that is very surprising and suspicious for children. How can it be? In Europe, you have, like in Austria mainly, you have a lot of bullying, at school, and here there is no bullying. So kids are already coming from Europe. They're used to be like, even, I don't know, Russian kids, they're used to be already like alerted, why he's asking me questions? He wants something, it's not good, So it took her half a year to realize that she needs to relax, that kids are asking her questions just because they want to know more about her and so on. But by the time of this transition period, kids also here, they got scared of her, because she's like, she's all the time alerted, not very friendly to them. And she didn't make friends in the beginning. Plus, school was quite expensive, we started already looking at the budget compared to all other prices, we had to cut a little bit. And I looked for another school, the local, so I found a cheaper school, private. She went there, but by that time she already relaxed. She knew that kids don't want to bully her, don't want to fight her, that they're just friendly, they just want to be friends. She became more relaxed. She was already looking forward to make friends. Obviously, she connected immediately. And that's it. And since then, she was like feeling great in that school.
And this was still in Uruguay?
In Uruguay,
right.
1.5 years. She followed in Uruguay in that school. She was feeling great. But the teachers are very, it's a family atmosphere. So the attitude here in primary, I would highly recommend to bring kids to Latin America, because it's a completely different attitude. It's very warm, they can hug teachers. It's not like in Europe that they're forbidden to touch, the kids. Here they still hug, the teachers. They call them corazón, my heart, my love. They talk with kids only this way, in a very warm way. And it gives to kids like they're in a family, like it's a continuation of a family at school. They care, they care a lot, and they're very warm. So psychologically, it relaxes a lot all children. I've seen it not only with my daughter, but with Russian children, who that arrived there, they relaxed. They became more communicative, more these soft skills, they developed much better. But of course, education is barely zero, it's fun, it's warm, but education for her, as I said, it was great because she learned the language. That was the goal. She learned it by full immersion, obviously in that age.
And I guess the culture as well, to adapt to that kind of culture, as you said.
Yes. So it was great, But then as she moved to secondary, we have to look already at it should be something serious. So when we moved to Paraguay, I looked for school. I found the Deutsche Schule, given that she studied in German. Then when we arrived to Asunción, she did entrance exams. Okay, so she entered and she started studying. But they told me actually it's Deutsche Schule, but it's Deutsche Schule in German only until secondary. So during primary years, it's in German. The language of education is German. And the secondary, it's only Castellano.
Oh boy.
But with some hours of German,
Right.
Okay, I said, fine, well, then she still was, 1.5 years of Spanish was still, you still need, it's not enough, so for a good level. For us, it doesn't matter. German is not our language, Spanish is not our language, so she will improve then, she will concentrate on Spanish. That was not a problem. And meanwhile, she would, speak a little bit with kids or had some lessons in German, so that was a good level.
And there was no English school, like no British school or something like that?
So there is American school here, but it costs $3,000 a month.
Right.
So even if I looked, I think it would not be accessible. There is English school by the Anglican Church, St. Andrews. I don't know the price there, but I don't think it should be, maybe it should be something around $700. I think I heard like that. There are a few schools in English, but somehow for us, like I said, okay, she will finish, given that English is her native language, she will finish the school last years in English. But until then, I wanted her to learn as many languages as possible,
right.
Because for kids, it's much easier to learn languages. I looked for, I thought German, bilingual, school, but it turned out to be, okay, kind of, in Castellano, but with some German. But the school, it was a complete contrast. It is so strict. Only after half a year, I realized that it's actually a Mennonite school, I had no idea. I didn't know who Mennonites are, organized by school. It was everything dedicated to Mennonites. I'm like, why are you talking about Mennonites, I'm like, well, we are Mennonites. Okay. So this is quite a religious community. I thought Mennonites are like Amish, they're wearing traditional clothes. Yes, there are many in the...
Chaco.
In Chacos, yes, in the provinces. But in Asunción, they are dressed normal. Like us, modern, and but they're Mennonites by religion, so they have their own church. I think it's kind of like evangelical, something like that, and they have some hours of religion, a lot of religion at school, which wasn't for me anything surprising because Paraguay is a very religious country. It's Catholic, and but there are also other religions here, and it's normal here to introduce religion in schools. Some are more religious, some are led by monks even. Some schools are for girls only, for boys only, segregation. And to have religious hours, it's a normal thing. So I didn't think much about it because kids you won't see any difference in kids, that in the religious school or less religious, you don't see any difference. They're kids, It's not like they go around praying, dress something. No, they're normal and with their jokes and what they do, it's the same thing, But it was nice to see, that it's also a good aspect, I think, to put this religion on them. It wasn't too much, so it wasn't something extreme, just a few hours of religion. But what was the biggest contrast is that the school is very strict. Not in terms of religion, but because of the study, because they are Mennonites, but Mennonites are originally from Germany, so they are Germans, they look like Germans, and they have the German attitude to studying. The program is very, very strict. We had no clue.
But in what way? Like a lot of homework, or it's like over-structured, or?
Yes, it's a lot of rules, By the rule, you need to give your homework within time. If you don't, they take out these points. Everything is based on points. You wear socks of a wrong color, points minus. You are late 1 minute to school. The gate is closed. They take you to the director.
No.
You write essay
why
you're late. It's very strict. And I had no clue about points. They didn't alert us because it's a Paraguayan system with these points. There is Ministry of Education, they have curriculum, and they distribute it to all schools. All schools, Mennonite, non-Mennonite, American, I don't know, they have to comply with this curriculum. In addition, they can do whatever they want, but they have to comply with this curriculum. This curriculum prescribes that twice a year they need to hold these exams. These exams are written in a certain way. You collect the points, plus the school can establish its own system for point collection. And it's everywhere like this with those points. Mennonite school takes it very seriously, and they establish that this percentage of points is based on how on time you give back your homework, this percentage of point that you do not miss school, this percentage of point your behavior, and exams have the biggest percentage, likely 60%, I don't know, of all the points. But I didn't know about everything before, all this point system. They didn't alert me because we are the only foreigners in school. And they thought that we're supposed to know because all Paraguay is like this, but we don't come from Paraguay.
Of course,
you know, we come from outside.
But that means that like if I go to school with, I don't know, red socks too often, and I get points deducted, right? Like, you know, I like it affects my point average, I guess.
Yeah.
Like that affects whether I finish school successfully or not. Like it affects my grade.
Yes.
It's crazy.
It's not red socks. It's if you wear blue socks, but uniform says black socks. You know, this difference. I mean, it's slight one. Red is like probably they
not
call
the right
me.
shade.
Probably they call me, you know, to withdraw. No, they told me in the beginning of school. I said, oh, you know, okay, my only concern that she doesn't repeat the year because she already repeated once the first grade, you know, that she shouldn't be behind. I want her to be with the same age students. And they told me, don't worry, because they never repeat in this school. So I relaxed, you know, they don't repeat. And then when in the first semester she received like twos, you know, many twos, I said, oh, it's alarming. What if, you know, but you said she will pass anyway to the next year. Doesn't matter if she has two or not. I said, well, yeah, she won't stay for another year. We just kick them out of school.
Whoa,
Nobody says if they have one, you know, then even if one, you know, then we kick them out of school.
God damn it.
Then she comes like at the end of, but don't worry, you still have another year. So it's a combination. The problem, they try to be strict, but it's still disorganized because it's Latin America. It's disorganized. For example, I tell them, look, I help her to study for the test, but she needs to know exactly what to study, you know, because during the lessons, she doesn't listen. She needs to study from the books. Often she doesn't understand because a bit Paraguayan accent, some teachers, she doesn't get it. If she doesn't get it completely, she flies away and that's it. So we need to study from books and we have external help teachers, okay? You need to tell us exactly what to study. Like, yeah. They give some topics, not on time, you know, I need to run after them. They might give those topics one day before the exam. How do you prepare for it? Wow. So this kind of like, it's disorganized still. It's Latin America. And this is the best organization you can have is this Mennonite school. But on the other hand, it was good. It was like a cold shower. At the end of the year, she got a lot of ones. And I said, oh my God, you know, she needs to pass the grade. By that time, I said, okay, we have to move to another school because it's impossible. But we had to finish here. So for 2 or 3 weeks of the exams, like whole country sits in that time to write those exams, all the classes. And in that period, we had to really study from day and night for these exams. I already looked for special methods, you know, how to learn by association, doing mind maps. So I studied different techniques, how to help her to study. We learned together how is better to learn, you know, studying the efficient way. Luckily, we have like tools you can, you know, with translate, you can now, you know, make a photo, it will translate to, without that we wouldn't survive. Then this we would put to ChatGPT would make a mind map, would do the explanation in English. She would read the explanation in English or listen to it because in plus she's dyslexic, you know, a little bit. So on top of that, she cannot read a lot, you know, she can't read a lot. And but we have all these tools. So we used all these tools. I looked at different methods, how to study and so on. So we passed with the average 3. no once. Okay, so that was fine. But then I said I won't survive because another year like this, because I said, okay, it seems that I graduated from school. It was as hard,
Yeah.
we were completely exhausted. Before coming, I heard it's difficult to find a place here at school, which is not true, because now I helped this Russian friends to look for schools here in this area. We just went to 3. There are places, please come, yes. They don't know how to integrate with the language, a child, that's for sure. So you cannot expect that. It's not Germany, where they have it like in German-speaking countries, they have it already because of immigration. They have it very organized. It's not a problem. Here, no support whatsoever. But when children come, when they're again in primary, no problem. They can integrate. They don't need, when it's primary, they don't need. Like in Uruguay, teachers were very worried. They're like, oh, how are we gonna speak with her? She spoke within 3 weeks. It's not a problem for a child. Doesn't matter if she has skills or not skills for languages, doesn't matter. They will speak. 3-4 weeks they will start, and the program is not challenging. You don't need much. What do they study in math? What? Nothing. So it doesn't matter. But in secondary school, it might be better to come with some level of Spanish for children, for sure, when they go to secondary school. This is what I've seen from families in Uruguay, because they came maybe with older children and they put them already into secondary school. So in order to catch up, they had to study in parallel, or they were continuing online to receive diploma in their countries. Like in Russia, for example, they would wake up, crazy hours, 5 in the morning, because it's afternoon in Russia. They would have to go through the school online and to receive the diploma like this. So this can be two options. And they go to local school just for the language. Just we don't care, the grades, because they will have diploma from their country. So that's another solution. They finish to school.
So the main barrier for families, in your opinion, is the language, like the fact that they might not be good Spanish speakers, so they don't.
For integration of children into secondary schools. Again, I would say secondary school, that could be a problem. In the primary, it's not a problem. You can come without Spanish, but secondary, better that they already have some Spanish.
What would you tell to people, specifically parents, that are maybe in the process of considering to move with their kids together to Paraguay or to Uruguay, or basically, abroad in general, I guess specifically those 2 countries? What would you give them as advice?
Well, the conclusion that we arrived is, learning the language, of course, beforehand. For little ones, it's not so important. But
until primary, like primary school.
Yeah, primary school is completely fine. Yeah, and secondary, I would recommend to learn the language. Not to bother if you don't find school not to try to organize everything from abroad. You arrive and then it will be much easier here on the spot. Because many things, if you try from abroad, they might not answer. They're not interested, because they know, like, okay, you write and they don't come, and like, who cares, it's impossible to organize these things. But on the spot, it's very easy. Okay, this school, they don't have place, you go to another one. Yes, take next day, she's sitting at the desk already. So it's done like immediately, on the spot. So don't try to organize from outside. That would be my recommendation. It's quite easy when you arrive here.
You gave the example with the point system, that you weren't aware of it, or the Mennonites, right? Like how can you maybe minimize those surprises and prepare, I guess, for that transition? Like, where to look for it?
Learning from my experience, it would be a good approach when the child enters the school to go to speak with directors exactly about what is your system. In Paraguay, it was eye-opener. We still were on time to sort out these problems, but it would have been much easier. It would have saved us a lot of hassle, and maybe the grades would have been better if I knew beforehand that I need to pay attention to these things, because it's much stricter.
Congratulations, you made it to the end of the clip. The full length of the episode is available right here. So go on, check it out.